if they could prove a financial hardship. But no high school player had ascended straight into basketball's major leagues. The Detroit Pistons had drafted Reggie Harding out of high school in 1962, but he first played in basketball's minor leagues before joining the NBA. By chance, Buck Walter, the director of player personnel for the ABA's Utah Stars, has stumbled upon one of Malone's high school all-star games. He marveled at Malone's blend of height and quickness. A hard wind would have blown Malone over. He stood 6 feet 11 inches tall and weighed just over 200 pounds, but his feet danced like those of a boxer. They never stopped moving on the basketball court. The colleges wanted the best basketball players. Buck Walter did too. The Stars drafted Malone in the third round of the ABA's 1974 draft. Most viewed the selection as little more than a publicity stunt, although it granted the Stars the ability to negotiate a contract with Malone. Buck Walter had heard rumblings about the envelopes stuffed with money that one of Malone's uncles requested just to let a recruiter meet with the teenager. Buck Walter had to sneak under a fence and narrowly avoided the jaws of a dog simply to knock at their front door. Mary Malone answered the door. Buck Walter glanced at the scarce furnishings. Mary Malone had 4 pictures on her mantel, one each of Jesus Christ, Martin Luther King Jr., John and Jackie Kennedy, and her son, Moses. Buck Walter knew that Moses Malone had heard every possible spiel. He discussed being a pioneer with Malone. Malone stared and mumbled. Buck Walter offered to build the family a new house. "This is yours," Buck Walter said after he put the money on the crate. "This is for you and your friends. This isn't like Maryland, where you never really see anything." Malone nodded and mumbled some more. He left the room and phoned Lefty Drizel. "Coach Buck Walter is over here and he's got $25,000 in cash lying on my table," Malone told Drizel. "He wants me to sign this thing. Should I sign it?" Drizel did not miss a beat. "Tell them to leave," he said, "and if they don't, call the police. Now, if he puts $1 million on your table, then call me back." Drizel's enthusiasm could drown out the voices of the hundreds of other coaches who lusted after Malone. Drizel was a marvelous, relentless recruiter. He had told Malone that they could start counting their national championships together. He planned to pair Malone with John Lucas, a talented guard, and purchase him an insurance package should an injury derail his future professional career. Drizel sold the university to Malone. More importantly, he sold himself to Mary Malone. She supported herself and Moses, first as a practical nurse and then as a meat packer. Moses's father had left the family before his son turned 2. Drizel told Mary Malone that he was a God-fearing man and Maryland was a Christian-based program. He was not going to lose Moses Malone without a fight. Drizel had successfully and skillfully fended off the other college recruiters. He now planned on struggling for Malone all over again. He preached the sanctity of college. He told the Malones that he had their best interests at heart and recommended that the Malones talk to an agent acquaintance, Donald Dell, and his partner, Lee Fentress, before making any decision. The Malones agreed to the meeting. Dell found Malone to be aloof, as all the college coaches had. He wanted his attention. "Moses, have you ever heard of slavery?" Dell asked. Malone's head snapped up. "Well, this contract you've been offered is slavery." The contract, Dell said, ran for 16 years. Utah only guaranteed the first 4 years, with a team option for the next dozen years. "I hated the contract they offered him," Dell recalled. "I thought it was chicken shit that they arrived at their house and put all that money on the dining room table of a poor person's home. The whole thing smelled." Dell wearily agreed to represent Malone in the negotiations. "I was very, very worried that he wouldn't make the team, or he would turn into something less than he wanted to be," Dell said. "A young 18-year-old with no education. That's what I was really worried about, and I really didn't sleep for a couple of weeks thinking about it." But Malone's decision had been made long ago. At 14, he had scribbled in the back of his Bible that he wanted to be a professional athlete. To reject this opportunity meant turning his back on the gift.